There has been an update regarding the future Saga Chapter 4 DLC information, and this news actually comes to us by Venix. And there's actually a pretty terrifying update here that mentions that they changed it from multiple characters to one character in DLC Saga Chapter 4, but let's get into this first real quick before we talk about that more. Hello everybody, it's me again, Steve OJ here, back some more Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 information. And before we actually get into this, let's talk about the older one first. This original news actually dropped back in October last year about, again, the future Saga Chapter 4 release date on Steam. And I'm gonna say we should still take this with a grain of salt, even though that developers are actually required to, give release windows on Steam, otherwise they can't put their DLC on Steam. So, Future Saga Chapter 4 could release between July and September. However, with Dragon Ball Z Kakarot's DLC, I'm very sure they delayed this. Kakarot and Sparking Zero both had delays on their DLC date informations. So this could actually still come out later, or it could come out before this date. It doesn't have to be. But one thing I do want to point out is that since last year of October, this information did not change. And even when they updated this page, the information did not change. Also, this is most likely the actual release window for Future Saga Chapter 4. And previously, it did actually used to say that there would be new playable characters. Keep in mind there's an S there, characters. Now it says new playable character, no S, no S. Now I'm not saying that this is obviously guaranteed. I'm just saying that this is obviously, kind of worrying about when it comes to how many, characters to be available. Now, this information was actually found out by Neotaku, so obviously, shout out to Neotaku, because if it wasn't for Neotaku, Venix wouldn't have found it, and then I wouldn't be seeing it, I wouldn't be telling you guys about it. But I don't think this is the final update, obviously. Again, we are still a ways away from July to September, which is the actual, release window. Again, that hasn't changed since last year, and they did update the page, and they didn't change the date, so that's most likely still going to be around the release time. It also coincides with the actual number that's on the Future Saga's pack page itself on Steam. Remember, the Future Saga pack page actually does have a release date on it itself, and the release date was very far into the year, which made people think maybe it was subject to change, but nope, it's definitely supposed to be much later on. Now, I do obviously want to address the elephant in the room first, the one new character thing. I don't think that's gonna happen, right? There's just no way that happens. A good example is, have they ever done a one character DLC in Xenoverse's whole life? I don't think so. It'd be really weird to start with the last DLC to do this trend, and if you do only release one character, that has to be the most hype, greatest character of all time. And I can't think of anyone who fits that bill. You couldn't get away with a one character DLC even if the character was the first reveal of Ultra Instinct Goku. It wouldn't even work. So I'm not sure what this final DLC character would be, or there's one specific character that's going to have all the hype, right? We're 100% going to get an Ultra Supervillain. That always happens. But this one specific character that's not the Ultra Supervillain has to be the coolest character ever, because that's the only way you can actually get away with a one character DLC pack. Because remember, a one character DLC pack is probably only going to have, two new super attacks, one ultimate, unless the character is like Vados, where she has 4 unique super attacks and 1 unique ultimate. But they don't do that anymore. That's most likely not the case. I think what's going to happen is that this is probably just, again, super early, so people don't actually know, and the developers won't actually, they don't know how many characters they're going to be releasing in this DLC pack either. Maybe they'll have to do a last-second character adjustment, like Evolution Blue Vegeta for the original, DLC 11, right? Or the DLC that had Super Saiyan God Vegeta and Rebrand in it. Evolution Blue Vegeta was a last-second addition to that DLC. Or maybe it'll be like Future Saga Chapter 1, where they tell us 4 characters are coming, and then on the day of release, a 5th character just shows up. And it's not like he's a rushed job. He's a fully finished, done character with a built-in transformation and unique mechanics after he transforms. And they just didn't tell us, and we just didn't know until the day of release. Bandai Namco sometimes just does the most bizarre maneuvers, and it could easily do that here too, where over-marketing could only imply there's one character, and then the day of the release, or maybe in another trailer, they just drop 3 new characters, a bunch of transformations, a bunch of custom partners. They could easily do that. So I don't think this will just be a one character DLC. Again, we've never had that. The lowest we've ever had is 2, which is always the case. Even when they do 3 DLC updates, like, Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken Goku and Hit Awoken, they update 2 characters, not 1 character. So even in DLC updates where we don't get any extra characters, they at least give more forms to pre-existing characters. I don't think that they would ever risk doing a one character DLC. I just really wanted to get out of the way because people are definitely going to be worried about that the whole time. So just want to put those fears to rest. Now, the speculation for who the one character is kind of interesting. A lot of people think it's going to be John 1000 himself. He is in fact coming. He heard you wanted Xenoverse free and he's here. But most likely not. Again, I think I've said this already. John 1000 is most likely the custom character of the game, kind of like how Ace and Bon are for Xenoverse 1 and Xenoverse 2. He's just like the default like custom character design. When you start the game, the male Saiyan design is probably going to look like this, or maybe the male Earthling design, who knows, right? But the main design is just going to look like that when you start the game, and then obviously after you click on that, you can customize it afterwards, right? That's what I most likely believe. So he's not going to be a separate DLC character for the game, because why would you do that when he's just going to be the custom character for the third game? And it's very likely, by the way, that we're going to get another update on this, like, obviously, because the DLC is not out yet. The gap between the October release and this release information is like 5 months. So they can easily update this again in another 5 months. By the time we get to the 5th month, we'd actually be in between the release period, which would be just before the DLC comes out, or maybe as the DLC is coming out. So we would know more by the time they do the next update. That's if the next update happens in the next 5 months. Or we just, we wait like 4 more months and we're already there? It's most likely going to be later in the year, but I don't think it's going to be as soon as July. Xenoverse 2 DLCs already have a pretty slow release schedule, and since this is going to be the last DLC before they're most likely done with the game, and then the only other DLC they do is maybe like small extra things that they can, probably get like a little bit of extra, like, money for. I think they'll probably spend their time doing the last DLC, since this is, the last major content release they'll have for Xenoverse 2 before we move on to Xenoverse 3 in 2027. And Xenoverse 3 might end up actually releasing, I was going to say might end up releasing early in the year. Probably not. Dragon Ball games like to release in October, right? They really like releasing in October or much later in the year. So by 2027, I imagine that Xenoverse 3 probably will release much later in the year. Maybe we'll get like one more last final content update for Xenoverse 2 after this, but it won't be called Future Saga, it'll just be called like some other thing, right? They haven't marketed Future Saga Chapter 4 as the final DLC yet. I say yet because we haven't actually had any real marketing for Future Saga Chapter 4 outside of the time rift from Future Saga Chapter 3. We haven't. So when they actually start marketing this for real, that's when we'll know if it's truly the last DLC pack, because they could still do like Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2, the final DLC. They could make a new DLC pack, but most likely with the much smaller roster available, because they've added pretty much all the characters now for real this time. If they actually only do end up adding one character, that could make sense, right? How many characters can you think of right now that they haven't added to the game that'd be a fitting final DLC release? My only guess would be Ultra Ego Vegeta, since the manga content is completely free game now. But that's a Granola arc character, and the Moro arc isn't even animated yet. So most likely they're not going to rush a Granola arc, transformation when we're not even done with the arc before that. That would be like trying to rush like Ultra Instinct in, and we're not even done with the Goku Black. Like the Goku Black arc isn't even animated, and you're adding a Tournament of Power like transformation. Like that'd be very funny, But then even then, that's Vegeta. So if they were adding one, it'd be for Goku 100%. But we do have all of Goku's forms already. They're not going to do True UI, by the way, if anyone is asking. That's literally just Ultra Instinct sign again. And there's actually zero visual difference to it. It's just that Goku's face can be anything other than like an aura form, like stare expression. That's the only difference. So it's not True UI. It's not Ultra Ego. It would probably just be, like I've always said, it's probably going to either be an ultra superhero character, like Ultra Superhero Goku, or just something else entirely. If they actually really only commit to the one new character, it would be like a variant of Goku, or like Ultra Superhero Goku, or just something completely insane like that. Hell, maybe they'll make End of Z Goku his own separate character, and he has like all of the power-ups, or like a combination of like Goku's moves all together in like one preset, right? It could be like a final Goku, if that makes any sense. Either way, I think that this is a pretty good place to end the video. Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 is getting lots of information coming out right now, especially regarding Dragon Ball Xenoverse 3, since we did get that official leak from Bandai Namco about the name of the game. And I think that's all very cool and stuff. By the way, there's actually a guy here that back in October for this original thing, he downright says here, oh yeah, so Dragon Ball Xenoverse 3 is coming in 2027. Bro, how did he know? He knew off of one leak back in October about Future Saga Chapter 4 that suddenly, yeah, I guess that means we're getting Xenoverse 3 in 2027. I don't know how bro figured that out, but some people just have like giga brains, and we all have giga brains here, because we're all gonna see Xenoverse 3 next year, which is actually quite a way away because this year only just started. But for now, we do have to look forward to Xenoverse 2's final DLC pack, which should be coming in the next like 4 to 6 months, unless if they delay this information, like they delayed the Sparking Zero. DLC release dates. So yeah, I will wait till then, but Xenoverse 2 is going to be in a very quiet period until then. I wish they would improve the netcode or do any other kind of balance patches during that time, but they're obviously not going to waste time fixing the netcode on a game that's soon going to be irrelevant when its, you know, successor comes out. So, unfortunate, but that's the way it is. I think that's a good place to end the video. If you guys enjoyed, then obviously, again, do please leave a like on the video. Don't forget to subscribe, as it greatly supports the channel, and leave a comment down below as to what you'd like to see next, fellas. I do love you all. I hope you all enjoyed it, and I'll see you all next time. Take care and peace.